So thank you everybody for joining us. My name is Matthew Diaz. I'm a program officer here at the Secretariat working in the ABS unit. One of my main responsibilities is the ABS Clearinghouse. And today we're going to be talking about capacity building resources that are available on the CBD website and the ABS Clearinghouse, and a little bit about some of the capacity building activities and the process happening at the Secretariat. So let me just share my screen to start. Oops. Can just give me a second. I think I'm sharing the wrong screen. 1 second.
No, it's the presentation.
It was the presentation?
Yeah.
How about now?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, good. So yeah, like I said, today we're going to be talking about capacity building resources. Before I start, I'll just go over a little bit about the format of these webinars. So I think this is the 8th webinar that we've been doing. These are question and answer webinars on a different topic every month. We try to choose topics that are based on the actual questions that we have received from users of ABS Clearinghouse users that are relevant to the ABS Clearinghouse or implementation of the protocol. So we try to find a topic that we haven't done yet, and we open the first part of the month for questions. So people, when they register for these webinars, you ask a question, and then we try to answer them all together in a webinar at the end of the month like we're doing today. So if you have suggestions for topics, please don't hesitate to send them to us, and we can try to put them on if they're relevant. We record these webinars and we make them available afterwards. So this is going to be recorded. We also try to develop FAQs, frequently asked questions, out of the questions that we receive and answer during these webinars, and make those available as well on the knowledge base on the Clearinghouse. So we're trying to use this material. Last month in August, we didn't have a webinar, but we put on a survey to try to get some results, feedback from people attending the webinar on how they've been going. And overall, we only received 11 responses, so we didn't get that many, but the responses that we did receive were very positive, and people found these webinars to be quite helpful. I just compiled a little summary of some of the things that were said. Some people suggested that the webinars weren't long enough. We've been trying to keep these to an hour just to make them, since we're doing them quite frequently, we didn't want to take up too much time, and we wanted to make them quite easy to put on for ourselves and also not take up too much of other people's time. Other people also said they were unable to attend in person. Part of the methodology for this webinar, or these kind of webinars, was that we wouldn't have a lot of discussion or take questions live, because it wouldn't matter if you attended live or you watched the recording. So the idea was to make them sort of available for all regions, all countries. Whether you attend live or just watch the recording, there wasn't supposed to be much difference. So that was part of the methodology, but we can see how we can try to do different methodologies, maybe to include more discussion, like what was suggested. Some people suggested the answers were not specific enough, but we're trying to also answer the questions in the FAQs as well. And we haven't finalized a lot of these FAQs, but we're going to email them to people who have registered for the sessions to get back to them and provide them with more information. But if you feel like your question hasn't been answered, please write to us again and ask a question. We always like to get back we'll get back to you by email. Some people said the topics could be more focused on practical issues related to implementation. I think that that could be a good point, and we can try to think about how we can do that. Some suggestions were presentations from national focal points explaining their rules and procedures, which could be good, and best practices examples from each different type step in the ABS sort of life cycle was some suggestions, and more about improving IPLC engagement. So that's sort of a general summary from the survey that we had. So today's webinar, like I said, is about capacity building resources available. We're going to talk about a little bit of, I mean, this might be very basic information for a lot of you, but what we found is that we have generated over the years tons of capacity building resources, and we get a lot of the same types of questions here at the ABS Clearinghouse, people asking the same things, and I think probably 99% of the questions that we do get can be answered by the capacity building resources that we have already developed and are available. So what we wanted to do, like the idea behind this webinar, was to help people understand where those resources are on the ABS Clearinghouse and the Nagoya Protocol, where you can find these resources and kind of what they contain, hopefully to help people when they're asking these questions, maybe they can also find the answers themselves. So that was sort of the idea behind this webinar. So we're going to talk about the Nagoya Protocol portal on the CBD website. There's lots of information there about the process, about resources. Regina's going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about a little bit what's on the ABS Clearinghouse and how to find and submit resources. We'll talk a little bit about the COP-MOP capacity building process that's ongoing, and a little bit about what we're doing here at the Secretariat. And then we can maybe take a few questions if there's time allowing. Today we had 72 people registered. I think we had a few more in the last day. We didn't have a lot of questions actually, so I think only a few people provided questions because normally it's a mandatory field in the registration, but I didn't make it mandatory this time because I kind of wanted to also explain how to find some common and useful capacity building materials. So only a few people provided comments. So I think I'll just pass control over to Regina Kipper and let her introduce herself, and she'll start the presentation.
Yeah, bonjour, hi. Welcome to our webinar. I'm gonna walk you through our web pages of the Nagoya Protocol website. I'm going to share my screen now so you can follow my mouse, which I enlarged. I'm going to show you some very general information where you can find general information, key protocol issues, and the different features we have on this, as well as, most importantly, the resources that we developed or partners developed, and that can answer many of your questions. We're constantly trying to improve our webpage also. So if you do have any suggestions on improvements, feel free to send them to us. We're actually doing a survey right now also to find out how to make information more prominent and what users actually are looking for on not the ABSCH Clearinghouse in this case, but really the webpage. So this is the entry page of the CBD. You click on Nagoya Protocol, brings you to all the related pages of access and benefit sharing and the Nagoya Protocol. I can hear an echo, so maybe someone needs to unmute themselves. All right, so I hope it's not going to be too boring, but yeah, if you follow my mouse, you'll get the main idea. So first, we have the pages that introduce general information to the Nagoya Protocol. It answers very general questions. You can find the Nagoya Protocol text. if you don't have the Bible of the Nagoya Protocol, you can find the original text of the protocol here in all the languages, as well as courtesy translations, and you can also search by article. And the next one is the history for those who are interested, how the protocol was negotiated. You will find everything here. The section on parties is for countries that are interested in ratifying or acceding to the protocol. You will find, of course, the list of parties, the steps on what you have to do when you implement it, and also what you have to do to become actually a party. So key issues under the protocol is the next section, and it's something that we use a lot for ourselves to get
I'm just sorry
information.
to interrupt, Regina, but could people mute their microphones if you have them unmuted? Just because we hear a lot of background feedback there. Thanks.
Sorry. Okay, thanks. All right, so the next part would be the protocol issues. I'm gonna click through them, but I'm not gonna explain the issues or go into detail into them, just to show you how the page looks. But first you find issues that are negotiated are the ABS clearinghouse, assessment and review, awareness raising, capacity building, compliance, different issues here. So I'm going to take the example actually of capacity building and development, since we're talking about the resources. So first you will find a little section on which article in the protocol relates to this, some recent information that the status of the negotiations, and then you will find a section that is similar in each of the issues with different tabs. So there's the summary. Under the summary, you will find the whole history of this issue that's negotiated under the COP-MOP, and even before the Nagoya Protocol has been adopted. So for example, for the IAC in June, we had a meeting. So for capacity building, we had a meeting of the IAC, and you'll find a short summary. You will find the link to the report, the link to the document, so you can click everywhere and it will bring you to the pages. Then you will find what happened at COP-MOP, the main discussions, all the relevant documents and decisions, and so on. So you can scroll through the history. You will find everything until actually before the negotiation of the protocol. ICNP, what happened with this issue before the protocol was adopted. So this is really interesting. It's for those who are interested in a particular issue. On the decisions tab, you will find the related decisions with the links, documents, all relevant documents, and all the notifications that have been issued on that topic. Sometimes for certain issues, you have a special tab that contains information that is very particular. In this case, it's the strategic framework for capacity building as a guidance for this issue. And I'm going to talk about this more later. So yeah, so we have their order of these key issues is alphabetical. So there's the compliance, cooperation with other instruments, DSI. DSI looks a little bit different. If you click on it, it will lead you to a different section, and it's the same idea still, what has been done on DSI and relevant decisions are documents. However, the page looks a little different. We have information on the financial mechanism, the global multilateral benefit sharing mechanism, model contractual clauses, monitoring, reporting, resource mobilization, and specialized international imprisonment. So like a lot of information there to be found. The next section are linked to the main CBD pages. It's not information that we actually update, but it's still useful. It brings you to who's part of the COP-MOP Bureau. This, if you click here, it brings you to the list of members, as well as all the related decisions. I mean, this is, yeah, very basic information that you will find elsewhere. The same with the next section, activities and communications. It brings you back to the CBD web pages, and it basically filters meetings and documents, notification, or press releases that are related to ABS. So if you're interested what happened lately, which notification was last published, generally it brings you to the search page of the CBD. It's already filtered to ABS, and the latest notification, you will find it here. It was a composition of the IAC on the ABS clearinghouse. Finally, the very useful, most important section maybe of this page, it's the resources. So the first link I'm not going to go into in depth because it links to the ABS clearinghouse, and Matt will talk about this later. The next subsection is awareness raising materials. So here you will find awareness raising materials that are useful to educate or teach people information about the protocol. So we have the fact sheets of the protocol, which are really very basic information on ABS, the Nagoya protocol, and how to become a party. We have the ABS information kit, which contains like all of like those fact sheets, as well as fact sheets on other topics like the Bonn guidelines. What does it mean, national implementation? What does it mean, traditional knowledge? So they're really something for someone who has no idea and wants like a package. This is the perfect link. We have so-called policy briefs of the Nagoya protocol, which are very interesting. They contain information on different sectors that are part of that use genetic resources, basically, and how the genetic resources are used, what are they doing with them, how does the access work? So it provides a very good overview of the different sectors. These are all available in all the UN languages. And finally, the most recent publication, it's the SEPA toolkit on ABS, and I'm going to go, sorry, this links to the ABS clearinghouse. I'm going to go into it in more depth in the English version to show you, because it's a very useful tool that also links to a lot of resources, and it's rather easy to digest. So we have some forwards, and then this is basically the content page, and you can click on the different goals. So we have the first goal of the SEPA toolkit relates to planning and strategic communication and awareness raising. Goal 2 is fostering political will and engaging decision makers. Goal 3 is involving IPLCs, and goal 4 is communication for successful partnerships, which I think will be very interesting for many, because we often get questions on how to negotiate agreements. So this is contained, for example, in goal 4. If you click here, you have 2 sections. I'm going to go to partnering and ABS agreements, and brings you again to this different section. And it gives you basic information, tips, and then a lot of resources again, and everything is linked. So we're going to look at, okay, there is a booklet, Introduction to Drafting ABS Agreements. I click on it, and it brings me to this resource. In this case, it's something that the ABS initiative developed, and yeah, more in-depth information basically on that particular topic. So, and the other final section I wanted to show you, it's we also have a section full of other recommended resources at the end of this toolkit. And there, again, you will find, the fact sheets, the information kits, video, everything. And if you're interested to learn about something, it usually links to the ABS clearinghouse, because we wanted to avoid that certain links may not be working anymore. So we uploaded all those resources to the ABS clearinghouse if they were available in different languages. So all these resources are linked to the ABS clearinghouse, and then you can download the information or the resource from there. So this was the SEPA toolkit. And I'm going to go down, sorry, to the resources again of the Nagoya Protocol portal. We have the Bonn guidelines. For those, this was part of, before the Nagoya Protocol was negotiated or adopted. They were developed, and they're still very, very relevant and provide good information on how to implement the protocol. So it's still a very useful, relevant resource. We have the e-learning courses that also Matt is going to talk about. The fact sheets and briefs, we talked about it already. Here we have something that's useful for people who negotiate. We have decision, the protocol, obviously, and the little decision booklets. So all the decisions of COPMOPs are condensed in this publication, and you can download it in each of the UN languages. So for the last one, COPMOP 4 is still not finalized. And so almost final, so that we have videos developed, which are actually fun to watch and yeah, very useful. Condensed information on certain topics, one on monitoring, ABS Simply Explained. I really recommend watching them and sharing them. And other resources include information that has been developed with other international instruments or other partners that work on access and benefit sharing. And yeah, it's a very useful information. For example, the explanatory guide to the Nagoya Protocol. It's a big publication, but it contains a lot of useful information as well as a strategic communication for ABS. All those resources are also on the ABS Clearinghouse, but we displayed them here because they are really our go-to resources. If we want to answer questions, and sometimes we may have forgotten something. So with this, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and return to Matt, who will talk about the ABS Clearinghouse. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Regina. And I think, as I said in the beginning, I think probably 99% of the questions that we get by email can all be answered by everything and the resources that Regina has showed us. So, I mean, I really encourage people to go through those resources when they're thinking about questions and try to find answers. You'll find lots of useful information. I myself have recently gone through some of those available resources again, and it's helpful. It reminds you and of things that you may have forgotten. I think another thing is a lot of people have, I mean, the negotiations of the protocol and the ABS have been going on for so long, you know. A lot of people have this conception of ABS prior to the Nagoya Protocol and maybe are missing some of the parts of ABS and the Nagoya Protocol that happened with its adoption. And I think some of the questions they ask are a little bit before the Nagoya Protocol. So I would really encourage people to read the books and go through and that's kind of why we did this webinar. Let me just share my screen again, and I'll talk about the ABS Clearinghouse. So the ABS Clearinghouse is a key tool to support implementation of the protocol. Its main goal is to help users get access and understand how to follow rules and procedures to get access to genetic resources and associated traditional knowledge in countries, and help providers monitor the utilization of their genetic resources, and also help provide information on capacity building. So the ABS Clearinghouse, I'm just going to take you through some of the key places to find help and useful information. And one of the first places is the announcements section. So on the homepage of the Clearinghouse, we post up useful announcements related to webinars that we're doing or different topics. So it's useful to look through those as you go. We have a map, but we also have like a section a little bit about learning about the ABS Clearinghouse and the Nagoya Protocol. We have some getting started information and FAQs. You can do tours and find help. So we have a lot of information there, but what I wanted to talk about was the help section. So we have a knowledge base that Regina also sort of mentioned. We're going through a process to improve our how we have organized some of our information, and particularly capacity building resources. The process will probably happen over this intersessional period, and hopefully we can have some changes implemented before the next COP. But I didn't want to wait until then to show you how to find things, because we'll probably have to do another webinar in a year or two from now when we actually do that. But so we've developed this knowledge base, and it's something that, like I said, it's a work in progress. We're trying to improve, but it's a good place to start to find information. For example, we have about the ABS Clearinghouse. We answer questions. For example, who is the ABS Clearinghouse for? We go through all the different stakeholders and what they can do on the ABS Clearinghouse. Each of these are tagged. And so, for example, getting started. These are all useful information, getting started to implement the protocol, getting started to understand what the clearinghouse is. It's all here. So when you have questions, before maybe writing to us, try to take a look in the capacity building or in the knowledge base to try to see if you can find answers to some of your questions. For example, what kind of help is available to use on the ABS Clearinghouse? So we have this knowledge base, as I mentioned. We have step-by-step guides for each type of information that gets submitted on the clearinghouse. We have details about the steps to actually submit those. So if you have any questions about submitting information on national information, it's there, but also virtual or reference record information, it's also there. So we'll talk about how to submit information a little later, but for example, there's very clear steps on how to do that, and with graphics and everything. So it should be quite self-explanatory. Another interesting tool that I wanted to highlight that we're also, it's a bit of a work in progress as well, is this contextual help. So on every page we have at the top this question mark, and you can click on it and it will provide you help based on the page that you're on. So this is so if I go to, for example, a page about CNAs, all this information would be about CNAs, and you can find information about the thing that you're trying to, or the task that you're trying to accomplish on the website. So it can be a very useful tool to check as you go through use the clearinghouse. Again, we have frequently asked questions that we're trying to improve. I'll show you that a little bit later. We also have tours. So this is for how to use the clearinghouse on pages, for example, on the search. We have Take Search Tour. We have these search tours available on different pages, and they take you through all the functionality available to help you navigate the clearinghouse and do things. So that can be very useful. We have a live chat. So if you have a question, you can write in here, and we will, if we don't answer you right away, we will get back to you, but you can always start a conversation and talk to someone. The other thing we're trying to do is improve that with and link it to our knowledge base, so it will provide you related questions to the questions related to the FAQs. So it's another way to navigate that with a little artificial intelligence, but that's something that's going to be worked on. We also have a training website that helps people to practice using the ABS Clearinghouse if they want to. So yeah, so I encourage everybody to go through some of these pages, the knowledge base, and try to answer their questions themselves. Because one of the things, as I said, we were doing in the beginning is through these webinars, we've done 8 of them. We're going to be, all the questions that were asked over those 8 webinars will be translated into FAQs on this knowledge base, and the answers will be provided there. So that will be, once we finalize that, it will be expand this knowledge base quite a bit. The other thing is that these questions are all translated. So if you switch language here into different languages, you'll get the translations of these questions. We run these translations periodically, so some things may not be translated if they're new, but they will be translated in the next few months. So that's one thing. One of the main reasons why I wanted to do this webinar as well was because of our e-learning courses. So you may have seen this announcement that we had. We have e-learning like Moodle. It's elearning.cbd.int. if you want to go through an actual course and get a certificate, and you can find other biodiversity related e-learning courses here. But a lot of people had some problems with this page. It's a different platform, and we're actually transitioning this platform to Informia, and we're moving our courses there. So in the meantime, I wanted to make our courses more available because they're really useful. If you have questions about the protocol, they're all going to be answered. I mean, 99% of the questions we get again are answered here. So I'd really encourage everybody, even people in the CBD working in the Secretariat, to take these courses because they're just very useful and a good reminder about what we do. So for example, you click on Introduction to ABS. It's a bit it's a kind of a dialogue the way the course is set up, but you can you can see what the introduction to access and benefit sharing, key concepts, how it works, the steps involved.
By the end of this lesson, James,
can you hear
will
that?
be able to describe how ABS.
If you don't want to listen to all the dialogue, you can also read it if you click on the dialogue, and
please bear in mind
you can go through it.
After prior info.
And anyway, it's just a very useful course to take. So I would recommend it to everybody. We have a very detailed course about the ABS Clearinghouse as well. I mean, we developed these courses probably in 2018, or they're a few years old, but they're still perfectly relevant. And I would encourage everybody who has questions about any of these topics to take these courses. So, for example, submitting information. Oops, well, you can. Also, I should mention that they're available in languages, so you can also see them in your language. So again, yeah, you can go through the course. It's the same sort of thing.
James,
this dialogue between these two people having a discussion about ABS, but you can also read the dialogue and skip ahead if you're interested, because it's quite useful. And for example, monitoring the utilization of genetic resources, it's quite a topic that we get a lot of questions on, but if you take this, you're going to answer most of your questions. So you can also go, each module has an index, so you could skip to, for example, the section on checkpoints if you're interested. So that's really helpful. One of the most helpful courses is the one about establishing measures to implement the protocol. So this is quite a detailed course for countries who are revising their measures or starting from scratch to develop new ABS measures. It tells you all about the steps needed. It gives you examples. It's good for both providers. It's good for users. It's good for everybody to understand the legal frameworks and the backbone of the concepts that and how they're implemented in countries. So, for example, again, compliance is an issue that we get a lot of questions about. But if you take this module and go through it, hopefully it's gonna clear up a lot of these questions that you have. Again, these are kind of
for this learning series on.
Yeah, you can also jump to the notes if you don't want to listen to all of this, but it's quite useful. You can also, as I said, for example, I'm interested in checkpoints. You can skip to the section.
Flexibility to.
You can skip to the section on checkpoints, and you can learn a lot there. So this was one of the main reasons why I wanted to have this webinar, is because a lot of people were not going to the e-learning site, and we didn't get a lot of traffic to these courses, and I just wanted to, again, make them more available so they're very easy to find on the ABS Clearinghouse, and to take them. So again, yeah, we have 3 courses there, which are very useful. Another thing is searching. So we have 2 types of records in the clearinghouse. As you may know, we have the national records that are submitted and published and managed by governments and publishing authorities and focal points. So those are all the very key information to implement the protocol. But then we have reference records. So this section reference records can be submitted by anyone, capacity building providers, partners, IPLCs, Anybody can submit these virtual library records or reference records, and the Secretariat manages the publishing of them. The Secretariat just ensures that they're complete and relevant before publishing them, but you can submit them. So capacity building resources are part of the virtual library resources. So if you're looking for information that you haven't found, or more, for example, guidebooks and things like that, you can find a lot of the information that exists here. Part of the reason why we have this is because there have been a lot of initiatives or funded projects that come and go, and when they develop websites, they develop repositories of their information, but when the project is over, all that information sort of evaporates and gets lost on the internet. So the ABS Clearinghouse is one of the places where it's going to be there, it's available, it will be there for many years, so it's useful to upload your information here, and it will be there you don't have to worry about finding hosting for it in other places. So I encourage people to do that. So if you're looking for specific things, you can type in free text search. You can look by, for example, subject area, keywords. So if you're looking for things about keywords, for example, codes of all these different things, capacity building, there's a whole bunch of different keywords that our information is tagged with that you can search by. You can also search by the key areas of capacity building areas. That could be helpful to find things. So I encourage everybody to peruse this information, and yeah, let us know if there's information that you have that's not available here, and we can help you add it. For example, ABS compliance in 7 steps, a guidance for organizations collecting, transferring, holding, or using genetic resources. So this could be a very useful resource for organizations and setting up, understanding the protocol, setting up compliance. So the last thing I wanted to, we don't have conscious of time, but I just wanted to show you a bit about how to submit. So anybody can submit information, like I said, and you just need an account. So you sign in. You have a lot of notifications, but okay, you sign in, you register, go to the submit section. If you're you don't have access, you will not see any of these national records, but I'm an administrator, so I do, but you'll just see the reference records. So if you want to submit, for example, virtual libraries resource, you can click there and it will take you through the submission form to submit this information. So it's very straightforward and easy, and you can publish it and it will be made available on the Clearinghouse. One last thing I would like to show you is that you can, if you're interested in finding out what types of things get capacity building information gets published, you can set up an alert. So you can add a new alert for example, virtual library resources, and you can get emailed daily, weekly, or monthly on the new resources getting published on the Clearinghouse. So if you're interested in that, I would really encourage you to do that. That can be very helpful. So I think that's about it. Feel free to write some questions in the chat and maybe we can get to them. But that's it for the ABS Clearinghouse. I'll just pass it over to, I think, Regina again to talk about a bit of the process, the COP-MOP process on capacity building.
Actually, it's we start with
oh, sorry,
Beatrice, but I'm gonna share the presentation if
please,
everyone. Can you see? Wait, what are we seeing? No, stop. Can you see? What do you see? I can't see.
What's
the
not on?
ABS Clearinghouse slide.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Go to the next one.
Yeah.
Maybe do it like full presentation mode.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have been talking about all the things that we have been doing and all the resources you have, and like what we have there or where wealth of resources and knowledge to move forward. But now we want to talk about the moving forward. And this is the coming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Everything that we are doing now from now on, as the Secretariat, as parties, as IPLCs, users, we all have to move in the same direction and make like another round of emphasis to try to make this framework a success. So the GBF, the framework, includes a target and a goal that relates to ABS.
Laptop to go to the screen for the screen?
No, I don't think so. No.
Can
Sorry?
you, whoever is
Thank
not
you.
unmuted, can you please unmute yourself? Thank you.
So how we measure the progress and the achievement of this goal and target is about monetary and non-monetary benefits. So this is our headline indicators and how we are going to see that it's actually effective. But of course, to get to the benefit sharing part, there is a lot of work that needs to be done, like depending on where the countries are in implementation, some countries still need to ratify the protocol, putting measures in place, institutional structures, publishing the information in the ABS clearinghouse. So there is multiple steps and probably even a time lag since you have a functional ABS system until you actually receive the benefits, because the value chain and how ABS agreements work. So, Regina,
Oops,
I think.
sorry. Yeah.
Sorry. So this is now what we all need to focus on. The target 13 and goal C is not only the Nagoya Protocol, it's also ABS under the convention and also under other instruments. But now we are just going to, what we are going to discuss basically is more about ABS under the convention and the Nagoya Protocol as part of the Secretariat. Very useful. There is this quick guide for target 13. As I'm saying, I'm going to emphasize this later on as well, but as this is the way forward, that's please read it. The link is going to be shared. So we all understand what is the target and the goal C about. So whatever you are doing and your plans and revisions of ABSCH and the move forward fits in the big picture that is the coming biodiversity framework. Of course, for the implementation and achievement, there is a lot of capacity building needs and challenges, and we are all aware of them, and it's important that we address them. And the identifications and questions always talk about what we need to do, what are the priorities, what prevents us to get to this, to achieving ABS and the benefit sharing. So the identification of those needs, particularly the assessment and review process that happened like a few years ago already, but the gaps and priorities are very clearly identified there, what we need to do, where we are lagging behind. It was based off the analysis of a lot of information, so the needs are identified. And now what we are going to also discuss is how at a decision-making level at COP-MOP, we are going to try to address those capacity needs for implementing the protocol. And that's where our friend Regina comes in. And also, we will maybe go to the next slide, Regina.
Yeah, so...
The ship. Our ship.
Yeah, the ship is there, no?
No. Here,
no.
you have it.
It takes a while to load.
Yeah. So Regina is going to explain what are we doing at capacity building at the intersectional process to address those needs and help achieving the global framework. And after I will also explain, because the Secretariat also aligns with these goals and these criteria, what are we doing to reinforce capacities where they are needed. So with that, Regina, this is the idea that we all have to work on the same direction.
Exactly. So the sailing ship is sailing hopefully towards our vision for 2050 and the mission for 2030 under the framework that has been adopted at the last COP. With this framework, you may be aware there's a bunch of related decisions that have been adopted. One is relating to capacity building and development and technical and scientific cooperation. It's decision 15/8 if you would like to look it up. And particular in the Annex 1 to this decision, there has been the long-term strategic framework for capacity building and development adopted, which gives the frame for other capacity building efforts that are to be undertaken, it calls for the development of thematic action plans. And that's something we're working on right now. I'm going to come to this after. I just wanted to actually give some more information also on the assessment and review, because the action plan that is currently being developed under the Nagoya Protocol takes into account the outcomes of the assessment and review of the protocol. I would like to highlight decision NP 3/1, which was adopted at COPMOP 3 in 2018. And the key findings of the assessment and review that has been carried out are summarized in Annex 1 to this decision. So the gaps and needs for capacity building, which are identified or which came out of the assessment and review, which are summarized in the decision, relate to Article 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, 15, 16, and 17, which you will find in your little Bible. But yeah, I'm not going to go into the depth in those. But basically what the recommendations that and priorities are based on the gaps and needs that have been identified. So it's about developing and adapting ABS measures, establishing institutional structures, compliance and monitoring the use of genetic resources. So more capacity building needed there. General awareness raising is still something that needs to be done of IPLCs, but also of all other relevant stakeholders, users of genetic resources. And another important part is, of course, the increase of financial resources for those capacity building initiatives that are needed, and a focus on more regional and global capacity building initiatives. They have been identified as something very useful, so the focus should be there. So the process that's currently ongoing that relates to decision NP 4/7, which was adopted at the last COPMOP December last year, requests a secretariat to revise what was previously called the strategic framework for capacity building, which will now be the new action plan. So in this decision, in the Annex 1, all the priorities for capacity building and development to support the effective implementation of the protocol are listed. And so with all these existing work that has been done on the revision, assessment and review, with the guidance of the Global Biodiversity Framework, as well as the long-term strategic framework, the Secretariat has been tasked to develop this new or revise the framework. We call it now action plan to move away from the term framework. There are too many frameworks. We had a meeting of the IAC on capacity building and got their inputs for the action plan. And we're doing further work with them. We're convening a forum with them, and based on all the inputs from them, we're preparing a recommendation which will be submitted to SBI, which will take place in May 2024. And then hopefully a decision will be and the new action plan will be adopted at COPMOP 5. Something that I wanted to highlight also, which has been part of the decision NP 4/7, is to encourage the use of the SEPA toolkit. So now that you have seen the SEPA toolkit, and yeah, if you're undertaking any capacity building activities, awareness raising measures, use it, share it, make it available. So this is something that, yeah, I would like to highlight as well. And with this, I'm coming to the next slide, and I would like to hand over to Beatrice again.
So yeah, basically what we were saying is like we are also aligning our activities to the global framework. And well, as you have seen, I mean, in the past, since adoption of the Nagoya Protocol, the Secretariat has been putting emphasis on the biennial work and plans for capacity building in different areas. So at the beginning, we're working more on ratification and general awareness. After we moved to work on measures, strategic communication, monitoring the utilization of genetic resources. So every biennium, we focus on different things and advancing with the implementation, like with the process of implementation of the protocol. So for this biennium, we thought about keep on promoting ratification of the Nagoya Protocol because this is important. Particularly, this is mostly done through outreach. So if you, as participants, you feel like we can help you to mobilize the political will of the country, or you need resources, contact us. We, as the Secretariat, we can send a letter. We can do some things to help move the process internally in your country. So please reach to the Secretariat for this. Of course, we're also doing awareness raising on Target 13 and integration of the protocol in the ABSCH revisions. Now there is a worldwide process on revising the ABSCH to include the global framework. This is a great opportunity to include and mobilize political will for ABS and the Nagoya Protocol. So you should take advantage of this at national level, reach out to ABSCH focal points, reach out to your CVD focal point, and use the opportunity wisely to help move in implementation. We promote publication of information in the ABS Clearinghouse. I mean, this is not only because it's a key obligation of the protocol, it's essential for having a fully operational system, is seen by the compliance committee, looks at this very carefully. So there is many reasons to do this. And also by publishing information on the ABS Clearinghouse, you actually contribute to monitoring the implementation of the framework. Many of the indicators that are included in the GBF and for Target 13 and Goal C are based on information published on the Clearinghouse. So if you want that your country shows progress in these key aspects, publish the information on the Clearinghouse. So what we are doing for the Clearinghouse, particularly to change the emphasis, we are promoting more the publication of ABS procedures and the development of information systems that support permitting and monitoring the utilization of genetic resources. Many countries have ABS legislation in place now, but for some different reasons, sometimes countries need like the extra step to articulate the ABS system for users. So this requires translating the legislation, your policy, all these instruments full of legal terms and things like this in something that can be understandable by users, very practical. What do they need to do to access genetic resources? And also how to have the ABS, like the issuance of permits and how to publish them in the Clearinghouse. So doing all of these extra steps in implementation can really yield results on making the system functionally easy and help to also monitor contracts. So there is a lot of advantages on developing these information systems and putting the ABS procedures in place. So this is something that we are working, like our emphasis for this biennium. Also, as a secretariat, we have done a lot of awareness raising on the process on DSI. Many people want to know what is happening. So this has been taking shape of briefings, presentations. So this is more about the process, the intersectional process, and how people can participate and contribute to the process during this biennium. As you know, there is no decision yet. And if you want to know more about the process, you know where to find it in the website now. And we also do some, we will do some support for the submission of national reports. We are finalizing to make the national report available in the Clearinghouse, and these are due in the 28th of February, 2026. There is still time. You will get notified. We will send a notification when everything is ready for you to start submitting. So how we are doing this? How we are this were objectives? So how we are trying to accomplish our objectives is a lot through outreach. Like many of you maybe have received our emails and emails from different people to promote and raise awareness of these issues and helping you. We do online, we do on-demand support. So please contact us. Like we are here to help. So don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we will see how we can help you. We are also organizing a global doing ABS workshop. It's a funny name, because now we are actually stop talking about doing ABS, but actually doing ABS. And this is planned for September 2024 in Bonn, Germany, and is done thanks to the financial contributions of the Japan Biodiversity Fund. And in the workshop, we will focus on highlighting actual work on best practices on ABS procedures, information systems, including for issuance of permits, and also to support the monitoring of the utilization of genetic resources through checkpoints. So it's going to be a practical hands-on workshop based on like work done by partners and by countries to help mobilize these latest steps in ABS to make a functional ABS system. Also, information about the workshop will come in due course. You will all receive a notification, and you will get informed once that we are reach this stage. We are also working on interoperability to make information systems communicate directly with the ABS clearinghouse. So once that you issue a permit at national level, will appear directly as a certificate, for example, in the ABS clearinghouse, to save you like this intermediate process and make it very smooth and fast and efficient, the process. With this, we got support from the European Union and to hire someone to work on this and help countries as well, provide technical assistance to communicate with the clearinghouse. There is the regional and sub-regional ABSCH dialogues. Also, you can see the notifications and how when they are included in the CBD website to get that information. We encourage you to communicate with ABSCH national ABSCH focal points, so you can participate and they can designate 2 people as part of the program. On this work, there is the integration of the protocols on the ABSCH, so there is a specific thing where we'll include the NAWIA protocol. So yeah, so for you to know that you can engage there. And we have done the Target 13 quick guide, and we are also collaborating with partners and other bodies for common goals. So we do a lot of coordination and cooperation to make it more effective. So the last thing I wanted to mention is the monthly webinars that we have been talking about. So you see here, there is a list of of issues that we have been handling. So when you have questions about community protocols and customary laws, you can check. There is a website in the ABS Clearinghouse. There is a page on the ABS Clearinghouse where all the recordings are listed. They are 1 hour. They are easy to follow. They can answer your questions because many different people prefer different formats of learning. Some prefer like reading a manual. Others prefer to listen to a webinar. So all these resources are there for you to use and get in shape to the ambitious task of implementing and achieving the global framework, and particularly Goal C and Target 13 that we are handling here. So the resources are there, and the Secretariat is here to support you in redirecting you to the appropriate place where you can find all the information and answer your questions when you need. So the next webinar is going to be in interoperability with ABS Clearinghouse. So those countries that you are working or thinking about having a permitting system, that you want to make the checkpoints more functional and send the information directly in the checkpoint communicate to the ABS Clearinghouse, please be on, like, keep an eye, maybe I mean, you can find information of the webinars if you don't receive yourself the emails. You can check the ABSCH House, so you can register. There is always a banner. You can go and register. If you didn't receive the invitation, you can tell us and we will send it to you. So the next one, interoperability. And yeah, Matt,
Yeah.
I think with this.
No, thank you, Beatrice. Yeah, that's great. So just to say, the next one, we're sort of kicking off this process to help countries on interoperability issues. We, like Beatrice mentioned, we received some funding to hire someone to be dedicated to doing that. So hopefully in October, we can start that process, start working with countries to actually enable them to make the most of interoperability. So we'll be talking about that next month. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. I don't think we have time to take any questions. That's pretty good hour. But we will share the summary, a recording of the webinar, and get back to you. But yeah, stay tuned for the next one next month. Thanks a lot.